All right, this is John Rigby with Rigby's Pool Services. I'm coming to you today to talk a little bit about testing strips. Some of you have asked about testing and what you should test your pool with. And while I do recommend the tailored test kits, they are a little pricey, and I have noticed that these test strips are relatively accurate and pretty they compare pretty close to the tailored test kits. So if you don't want to go out and spend $100 on a test kit, these AquaCheck Silver strips are very good. This is a 6-way test, technically 7, but anyways, the first bar up here that you see is your total hardness, gives you a scale. Second one is your total chlorine. Then you've got your free chlorine, your pH, your total alkalinity, and your cyanuric acid. Let's start with the total hardness. That's your calcium reading, and we want that calcium reading to be somewhere, it says between 250 and 500. I usually say 250 for a vinyl pool if you have a liner, closer to the 300 mark if you have a concrete pool or a plaster pool. Then you probably want it a little bit higher, around 300, maybe even 350. Too low, and you're going to be the water's going to be pulling calcium out of your finish. And too high, you're going to see some scaling and some excess calcium falling out of solution. So really that used to not be as important, or we didn't think it was. Now we're starting to realize calcium's more important. This next one, your total chlorine, that gives you the measure. And if you watched my other video about chlorine, your total chlorine is the measure of all the chlorine in your water, good and bad. Okay, so that number we want to be right about 3. Right about 3 is a good place to aim for. Your next one is your free chlorine, and this is what we consider your good chlorine. How much good chlorine do you have in your pool? How much is there to sanitize? And in a pool, we shoot for about 1 to 3, with 2 being that sweet spot. 3 is fine. In a spa, which is a much dirtier environment with hotter water, we shoot between 3 and 5 or so. Now, what this doesn't have, and the reason we can call it a 7-way test strip, is because you can subtract your total chlorine and your free chlorine. So you take total chlorine minus free chlorine, and that gives you your combined chlorines. So if your total chlorine is 5, your free chlorine is 3. Well, 5 minus 3, your combined chlorine is 2. And if your combined chlorine is 2, you're in big trouble. You need to shock right away. All right. Your next one down here is your pH. And pH is really important. It pretty much measures the hydrogen in your water. It also, how much CO2 is in there as well. We want to shoot, this gives you a range between 7.2 and 7.8. I'm a little bit more tight on that. I like it to be 7.4 to 7.6. Kind of more towards the 7.4. And the reason pH is so important, not only will it burn your eyes if your pool is way too acidic, way down here, or way too basic. I always tell this to my customers, the pH of the human eye is right around 7.4. So I try to match my pools to the perfect pH of the eyes. So if you make your pool 7.4, you can go underwater and theoretically open your eyes, and it really doesn't burn. And I challenge you to test this, and it's actually very true. If your water is 6.2 and you go under and open your eyes, it's going to burn like crazy. So 7.4, 7.5, you'll have a much better swim. Your eyes aren't going to burn. Also, your chlorine effectiveness, the lower it is, the more aggressive your chlorine is, and the higher your pH is, the more lackadaisical it is. It's not as effective. It's a little bit lazy. That's kind of how I describe it. Now, your total alkalinity is your total alkaline substance in the water. And it's pretty much a buffer for your pH. If there's not a lot of alkaline material in the water, your pH is going to fluctuate up and down constantly. We want to shoot for, this says 80 to 120, maybe 180. I say right around 100 for some pools. 120 is fine. stay within the 100 to 120 range. If you're down by around 80, that's okay, but shoot for about 100. And we achieve, actually, alkalinity really is just, alkalinity plus is just baking soda, whereas pH plus is soda ash. But these are two household products you can adjust with baking soda and soda ash. You can bring them both up. Your last one, this one's really tricky for people to understand. This is your cyanuric acid, and this protects your chlorine from being burned off by the sun. Okay, so it's important in not just regular chlorine pools, but salt pools also. You really, really need cyanuric acid, even if you have a saltwater pool. Okay, this helps your cell. It helps the longevity of the cell. It's really important. Follow your manufacturer's recommendation. I think Pentair actually says shoot for like 50. Some pool companies say to go higher, closer to 80. I'm a firm believer in having less. I think 30 to 50 is better. That's just my opinion. And the reason for that is that, yes, it does protect your chlorine from being burned off, but cyanuric acid also affects your free chlorine level. And this is what is very difficult for people to understand. At a level of 100, okay, if your cyanuric acid is at 100, that means that it has weakened your chlorine to the point that you need 7.5 parts per million of chlorine to equal 1 part per million if you didn't have it in there. So if cyanuric acid wasn't present, 1 part per million chlorine is perfectly fine. However, if we add a level of 100 of cyanuric acid, now all of a sudden that 1 part per million is now 7.5. They achieve the same sanitizing effects. Okay, that goes to show you that now 7.5 parts per million of chlorine is the same effectiveness as 1. And if you want to rid algae from your pool and you're running at a level of 100, you need at least 15 parts per million of chlorine or higher. Okay, so that is where cyanuric acid, the higher it gets, the more problems you have. That's why I like to keep it lower, closer to 30 to 50. That's just my personal opinion. Now again, these AquaCheck strips are great. I think they run about 20 bucks. I know I sell them on my website for $20. They're right around there, maybe a little bit cheaper on Amazon. But yeah, they're fairly accurate. I've never had issues with them. So check them out. They're by Hatch. And yeah, you can get them right on Amazon. Thank you.